Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Sheen, your host. This is Money Matters. Today we're going to talk about traditional versus Roth. So that could be traditional IRAs versus Roth IRAs, or traditional 401ks versus Roth 401ks. So just in general, traditional versus Roth. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Check out my other videos. Give me a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel, pushes the YouTube algorithm, spreads my channel, spreads my video, spreads my information to more people, helps me grow the channel. I would really appreciate it. Also, if you haven't yet already, please consider subscribing. Let's get started. All right, so the biggest thing about traditional versus Roth, whether it be a 401k or a Roth 401k versus traditional, or IRA versus traditional, the biggest difference is when you pay the taxes, because you have to pay taxes on both of the options, but it just depends on when you pay the taxes. So for a Roth, a Roth IRA or 401k, the Roth designation simply means that you pay the taxes up front. You pay the taxes the year that you put the money in. And then that money gets to grow tax-free. So all the growth that money has is not taxed later on when you take it out. Versus the traditional, either traditional IRA or traditional 401k, just the traditional denotation means that you pay the taxes after, when you retire, when you're taking the money out. So you don't pay the taxes up front. So here's a chart real quick. So first of all, the contribution limits are the same for either traditional versus, and so this is just talking about IRAs. For a 401k, traditional versus Roth 401k, the contribution limits are actually a lot higher because it goes through your employer. But if it was just an IRA, the contribution limits for this year, 2020, is $6,000 and $7,000 if you're 50 years or older. So for the Roth IRA, the pro is, so here are the pros. Qualified withdrawals in retirement are tax-free. So just like I said earlier, when you withdraw the money after retirement, you don't pay any taxes. Contributions can be withdrawn at any time. So what does that mean? So you can take out your money, your principal, at any time. So for instance, let's say you put in $5,000. The money that you put in, you could take that $5,000 out anytime, out of your account anytime, and that's not taxed because it's your contribution. But the money that grows, the growth, that you cannot touch. There might be some specific rules that you can withdraw it for some type of emergency or something like that, and I think there might be a penalty. But in general, the growth, the interest that you make in the account, you can't touch that, but you can always withdraw your principal. The money that you put in, you can always take out. And so here are some cons. So for the Roth on the left-hand side, no immediate tax benefit for contributing. So the year that you put in the money, you don't get any tax benefits. You only get the tax benefits at the end. And the ability to contribute is phased out at higher income levels. And that income level currently for this current year is 124,000 or less. So if you make 124,000 or less, you can contribute to a Roth or a traditional IRA. But if you make more than that, then it is phased out for you. Here are the early withdrawal rules. So for a Roth IRA, contributions can be withdrawn at any time, like I just said. So your contributions, the money that you put in, can be withdrawn at any time. But the growth, the interest that is accumulated, that you cannot generally you cannot touch that unless you meet certain exceptions. There are early withdrawal, and earnings may be subject to 10% penalty and income taxes. So that's the breakdown for the Roth side. Here is the traditional side. So for traditional, it's essentially kind of the same. The biggest difference again is when you are taxed. So here are the pros for the traditional. If deductible, contributions reduce taxable income in the year they are made. So again, you get that tax break up front. The year that you contribute, that is the year that you'll get your tax break. At the end, when you take out your money after retirement, you don't get a tax break. Then you have to pay the taxes at the end. So here are the key cons. Deductions are phased out, so it's essentially the same. It's phased out at 124,000. If you make under 124,000, you are able to contribute to a traditional IRA. If you make more, you are not. Distributions in retirement are taxed as ordinary income. And again, that is when you pay the taxes at the end. When you retire, that is when you pay taxes. And here are the early withdrawal rules. Unless you meet an exception, early withdrawals of contributions and earnings are taxed. So in this one, since you didn't pay any taxes up front, if you do withdraw, you have to pay, first of all, you probably have to pay a penalty. but you can't just take out your principal. Unlike with the Roth, you could always take out your principal without penalty because you already pay taxes on your principal. That's the whole reason why you could take it out. But on traditional, you can't take it out because you haven't paid taxes on it yet. So if you do take it out, there's going to be a penalty. Those are the major differences. Take a look at this next slide. So basically, when you want to pay your taxes is when you have the lowest tax rate. That's pretty obvious. So if you are currently paying higher taxes at your current level, if you're making the most money you ever think you're going to make currently, and you're in the highest tax bracket, you're going to want to go with a traditional because you don't want to pay taxes now because your taxes are at the highest levels now. If you expect your taxes to be lower in the future, like when you retire, then that's when you want to pay your taxes because you want to pay obviously the lower tax. If you're getting taxed at 25% now because you're making X amount of money, but when you retire and you expect to be making maybe only a quarter or half of what you make now, you're going to be at a lower tax bracket, and therefore you'll be paying less taxes. So you want to go with the traditional because you'll be making less taxes. But when we're talking about the future, you never know what happens. This is trying to predict the future. In general, taxes are probably going to go up. So even if you're paying, let's say 25% now, and you're making a lot of money, when you retire in whatever it is, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, when you retire, you'll probably be making less money, but the taxes probably have gone up in the last 30, 40 years. And so even though you're making less money, you're actually paying more taxes because taxes are going up, let's say in the next 20 to 30 years. So again, it's kind of like trying to plan the future. Nobody knows what the future taxes are going to be, but we just try to do our best. And the opposite is true for the Roth. The whole reason for the Roth is if you think you are going to be paying more taxes in the future because, again, taxes most likely are going to go up in the next 20, 30 years, however long it takes for you to retire. Or maybe for some reason you think when you retire you're going to actually be making more money, probably from your investments, or maybe if you have a future side job and you have dividends from your investments and things like that. For some reason you calculate that you're going to be making more money than you are now, which is completely possible, coupled with the fact that taxes in general are probably going to go up in the next 25 to 30 years, then you want to pay your taxes now because right now you know what the tax rate is. You're not going to try to predict what the tax is in the future because it could go up, it could go down, nobody really knows. So you could contribute to the Roth because now you could pay your taxes now and you don't have to worry about it when you retire. All that in the account, in the Roth account that grows, everything in the Roth account, you will be able to take out at the end paying zero taxes. So again, it all depends on what the future holds, what the taxes are going to be like in the future, what your personal finances are going to be like in the future. And nobody really can predict the future. Nobody knows what the government's going to do in the future. So personally, what I do is I just split it down the middle. I put half in the Roth and half in the traditional because honestly, I don't trust that I'll be making less or I'll be making more in the future. I really don't know. And so I like to just cut it down the middle and, just call it a day. That's what I do. But I ran some calculations, so these are interesting calculations to actually see what account makes more money over the lifetime. So I do see a lot of research out there. A lot of people are pushing the Roth. Pretty much, I would say 80 to 90% of all the research that I've done, people are saying the Roth is the better choice. The Roth, you're going to save money. And I always saw that, and I talked to other people, and I don't think it is. So it depends. It depends on your situation. It depends on what the taxes are in the future. So here are the calculations. Take a look. I think some of you might find this interesting if you came across other research that always push the Roth on you. Just take a look at this. So this is a calculator. I'll link it in the description below so you can use the same calculator. So basically, it's just a simple calculator that you could input your investments and how much you're going to contribute. So for my example, I just took $6,000, which is the max you can contribute in 2020. So this is for the traditional $6,000 contribution, one-time contribution, so no additional monthly contributions. And I just put 20 years. In 20 years, and we're just calculating, it could be any number there. I picked 7% interest rate annually, and that's just because if you invest in the standard S&P 500, stock market, on average, you're going to make roughly 7 to maybe 9%. So that's why I just put 7. So in 20 years, with just one time $6,000 contribution at 7%, you'll be coming out at $23,218 if you just did the traditional, meaning you would actually have to pay taxes after 20 years when you retire. So at the end you would have to pay taxes, and I just put 25% tax rate, and that's just picking a number. Who knows what the tax number is actually going to be? For my example, 25% taxes, you'll actually be taking out $17,414. That's how much money that's going to grow if you put a $6,000 contribution using traditional method. Here's the Roth. And so the thing about the Roth, and here's the big thing that I think a lot of people don't calculate and don't understand, and people that push Roth, they don't take this into consideration. So a lot of people, they put $6,000 into a Roth thinking that $6,000 is the max you could put. And that is true. That is the max you can put. But you have to pay taxes up front. So $6,000 is actually $4,500. So that's, again, calculating with the same 25% tax rate. So you're actually only putting $4,500. You're not putting $6,000 because you have to pay taxes up front. And so same 20 years at a 7% interest rate, you are going to get $7,413, roughly the same, $7,414, which is the same exact amount that you would have made using the traditional. So again, you don't pay taxes at the end, but you pay taxes up front. But because you paid taxes up front, the money that you put in, it was actually less. So there was less to grow. So the only way that you're going to win with a Roth is if you completely max it out. And here is my calculations, my examples of maxing it out. So you actually have to contribute $8,000 because you have to pay the taxes right now. So 25% taxes, that's negative minus $2,000. So that's the only way you're going to get to your max, which is $6,000. So you actually have to pay $2,000 extra up front in order to max out a Roth, versus the traditional, you only had to put $6,000 up front. For the Roth, again, you have to put $8,000 up front. And if you do that, that's the only way that the Roth will win, because $6,000 after the taxes are paid, 20 years time, 7% interest rate, you're going to get $23,218 compared to $17,413. So that is my calculation. A lot of people kind of miss that little detail, is that, again, the Roth, you do make more money, yes, but you also have to contribute more up front because you have to pay the taxes up front. So if you are able to contribute for the IRA, the full $6,000 in a Roth, which is actually $8,000 because you have to pay the taxes, if you could do that every year, then that's obviously the way to go, because you're going to have more money at the end. But if you can't contribute the full $8,000, it really doesn't matter then. If you contribute to a Roth or a traditional, at the end, just like in my examples, it's the same thing. Because if you contribute $6,000 in a Roth, it's actually only contributing $4,500 because you have to pay taxes. So it's the same thing if you choose a Roth versus a traditional, again, if you're not contributing the max, which is actually $8,000 for the Roth. Let me know if that makes sense. Look over the numbers. Go to the website and calculate the numbers yourself. And let me know if it makes sense to you. Let me know if you found any value in this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet already. Check out my other videos. Give a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. I really appreciate it. And catch you in the next one.